It's sad that a large number of people go missing every day, and some of them are public figures. Understandably, when famous people go missing, it causes a huge public outcry. However, it doesn't always lead to the discovery of these people. Today we're going to look at 7 of the most high-profile celebrity disappearances of the 20th century. So, let's get started. An anthropologist, Michael Rockefeller, son of politician and banker Nelson Rockefeller, was studying anthropology and went missing during one of his ocean expeditions on November 18, 1961. He traveled with ethnographer Rene Wassing and 2 locals to a settlement of the Asmat cannibal tribe. The travelers tried to reach their destination on a homemade boat with a weak motor, which soon failed. The first to go for help were 2 locals who decided to cross the river without a boat, and then Rockefeller himself, who was sure he could make it to shore. Wassing was soon rescued, but Michael's fate is still unknown. Despite a large-scale rescue operation in which his father participated, it was not possible to find him. There are 2 versions of what happened. According to one of them, he drowned. The other hints that the man was eaten. However, it is not certain that he was eaten by wild cannibals. He may have fallen victim to crocodiles or sharks. The pilot. Amelia Earhart was a pioneering American pilot who made history as the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean. Her lifelong ambition was to fly around the world on the longest route, with a slight deviation from the equator. In the summer of 1937, Amelia Earhart flew from Miami with a navigator named Fred Noonan. On July 2nd, their plane was lost from radar. By that point, they had already covered 80% of the route. There's some info that a runway was built on the Pacific island of Howland just for them, and the Coast Guard ship was keeping in touch with the plane. In her last radio message, Earhart said the plane was running low on fuel and that she couldn't see Howland Island from the plane. After this message, the plane vanished, and as time went on, Earhart's disappearance became the subject of numerous legends. No search for the missing plane was ever successful, and since the remains of the crew have not been found, interest in the incident has grown. The official version says that the plane crashed, but there are other popular versions of the disappearance of the brave pilot. One of these versions says that Earhart and her navigator Noonan were forced to make an emergency landing at a Japanese military base in the Pacific and then died in captivity. There are different versions, ranging from a crash close to reality up to a mystical alien abduction. Who knows? This world is full of the most unexpected surprises, and yet the case of a mysteriously disappeared female pilot remains unsolved. The Prime Minister of Australia. We would be incomplete if we did not mention our enigmatic neighbor, Australia, the most mysterious continent. Australian Prime Minister Harold Holt disappeared on December 17, 1967, after going swimming at Cheviot Beach with 4 friends. It should be noted that Holt was in good shape, was fond of underwater hunting, and able to hold his breath for a long time. In the afternoon before lunch, he decided to swim. The current was strong and the waves were quite big, but that didn't stop him. He entered the water, followed by one of his friends. However, unlike the fearless Holt, his friend tried to stay close to the shore. Those who remained on the shore were shouting and making noise at the Prime Minister, but he didn't seem to notice. His behavior seemed a bit unusual. He appeared to be struggling with the current and seemed to need assistance. Before long, Holt was engulfed by a huge wave, and he was never seen again. Further search and rescue operations were conducted by emergency services and divers. There were all kinds of theories about what happened to the Prime Minister because his body was never found. The most common explanation is that he drowned, but some versions even portray Holt as a victim of the CIA and even a spy in the service of Chinese intelligence. He was an excellent swimmer, but on that unfortunate morning, he was unable to resist the current. All that remains after the politician disappeared are his underwater fishing equipment and clothes. There are no other traces or clues. A fake death? In 1943, Glenn Miller, the famous creator of one of the most famous swing orchestras, finally got his wish and started the United States Air Force Army Band. The orchestra was always on the move, so on December 15, 1944, Miller flew from Great Britain to France to start getting ready for the musicians' Christmas show in Paris. But the plane he was on never made it. One story says the carburetor on the single-engine Norseman C-64 iced up, which killed everyone on board. Another theory is that the plane crash was caused by British bombers dropping bombs into the sea and not noticing the small Norseman C-64 plane. One of the most popular conspiracy theories is that Miller was seriously ill and staged the plane crash and then died in a French hospital. I don't know why he would want to do that. The Queen of Detectives. Not many people know that the world-famous writer Agatha Christie, who became really popular thanks to her detective novels, was able to turn her own life into a mystery. After a big fight with her husband in 1926, she drove off in her car, leaving a note saying she was going to Yorkshire. For 10 days after she left, no one could find Christie. The search involved about 1,000 police officers with dogs, as well as 15,000 volunteers and several airplanes. The writer's car was found a day after she disappeared near a chalk quarry. Her fur coat and expired license were found in the back seat. The queen of the detective genre was later found, and her whereabouts were reported by the guests of a fashionable hotel in Harrogate. They recognized the writer from pictures in the newspapers. However, Christie was unable to explain her actions to her loved ones, and the medics considered her condition to be a short-term memory disorder. A trade unionist, Jimmy Hoffa, the American labor union leader, vanished at the age of 62. Oh, and he was also linked to the American mafia, on top of being famous for fighting for workers' rights. It's pretty clear that Hoffa used his position and reputation to line his own pockets. On the afternoon of July 30, 1975, while in Detroit, Hoffa disappeared. It's known that on that day, he went to a meeting with 2 ex-union members who were also involved in the criminal world. After arriving at the restaurant where the meeting was to take place, Hoffa made 2 phone calls to his wife and a former labor unionist. He said that no one showed up for the meeting. He was last seen in the parking lot of a restaurant. A little later, his car was found unlocked in the same place. The men Jimmy was supposed to meet stated under questioning that they had not arranged to meet at all. The FBI became involved, but the missing man's body was never found. 7 years later, Hoffa was declared dead. The Missing Inventor. We also know that Louis Le Prince, the French inventor who created the first movie cameras, vanished right off the train he was riding from Dijon to Paris. This happened on September 16, 1890. We go into more detail about this case in my previous video, so if you're interested, you can find the link in the description. I'd appreciate it if you could leave a comment about the video. Thanks for your support, and subscribe to the channel if you want to follow the release of new videos.